Hello guys, I'm sure you didn't expect to see your old pal Walter again, but there's a reason why I'm here. Amy is currently trying to work on two big videos, both monkey videos, and she didn't want to disappoint you guys with the lack of content, so she called me over to record a video. So, here I am. Today, we'll be talking about every Pearl Jam album ranked from worst to best. Our first album on the list is Gigaton. Pearl Jam's most recent album, and their first in 7 years, wasn't bad, but it sounded like the work of a band deep into middle age, its songs smoothed out by a production that favored gloss over grit. The scratchy funk of lead single Dance of the Clairvoyants and 7 o'clock Sod sonic shifts are intriguing, but the album as a whole doesn't stay close enough to familiar territory or wander far enough from it to be interesting. The next album on this list is Binaural. PJ's first album of the new millennium found them retreating further from their old selves, a process that had begun in earnest on 1996's No Code. Punky opener Breaker Fall bristles with energy, the brooding Nothing As It Seems offers up some proper guitar heroics, and Stone Gossard's Off the Grid is stripped back and strangely intriguing, but the rest of the album doesn't have the magnetism of their best work. The urgency that once drove them seemingly concentrated in their relentless gigging, and the stream of in-the-moment live recordings emerged off the back of it. The travails of success and an ultimately unsuccessful battle with live music behemoth Ticketmaster seemed to drain Pearl Jam. Yield kicked off a run of albums that were fine if not essential. A single given to Fly channels the afternoon heat haze of Led Zeppelin's Going to California before spiraling off to the heavens, though Yield is at its best at its two extremes. On the one hand is the rough-assed garage rock of Brain of J, as in JFK and Do the Evolution, on the other are classic Pearl Jam slow burners Wish List and album highlight Low Light. The stuff is between is decent enough, but frequently forgettable. How many people can remember How Pilot and All Those Yesterdays Go? That title is a misnomer. Pearl Jam's seventh album is more subdued and insular than anything before or since, due in a large part to two tragedies that preceded it: the deaths of 9 fans during their set at the Roskilde Festival in June 2000 and the 9/11 attacks the following year. There's a sense of a band shutting out the world around them and clinging on to the music to get them through it all. Love Boat Captain tempers its exhilaration with a shot of reflection: to the universe I don't mean a thing, intones Vedder, while the stripped-down Thumbing My Way sounds like it's struggling to hold itself together. Even Bushleaguer, a takedown of then-President George W. Bush, sounds more resigned than angry. A tough record to find a way into, one with the avocado on the cover. In truth, the fruit was the only thing that really distinguished it from 2000's Binaural and 2002's Riot Act, a run of albums that found Pearl Jam in a holding pattern, albeit a high-quality one. Their records were still great, but they were no longer indispensable. The opening pair of Life Wasted and Worldwide Suicide were fuzzy and propulsive, while Gone provided the requisite moment of quiet reflection. Pearl Jam's only album of the 2010s is most notable for Sirens, a chiming, unadorned love song that provided a completely different emotional punch to the great ballads of 10th, Versus and Vitalogy. But this was more than just a one-song record. The rocket-fueled Mind Your Manners found Stone Gossard and Mike McCready letting loose with some unembarrassed soloing. My Father's Son benefited from the presence of keyboard player Boom Gasper, an unofficial sixth member since Riot Act, and closing track Future carried emotional weight without being dragged under by it. Pearl Jam's fascinating, occasionally brilliant fourth album sounds like nothing they made before or since. Recorded against a backdrop of intra-band turmoil, Vedder had reportedly wrested artistic control. Its default setting was low-key. But quiet didn't necessarily mean bad. Opener Sometimes and the Afrobeat-tinged Who You Are exuded calm beauty, while the furious Hail proved they could still crank it up. No Code baffled many who'd bought 10 and Versus, and the band's sales took a downturn. For Pearl Jam, though, that counted as a victory. Whatever inner turmoil plagued Pearl Jam through the 2000s had dissipated by the time they released their Backspacer. Their first Obama-era album, it rocked harder and brighter than anything they'd released before. The opening 1-2-3 of See My Friends, Get Some and The Fixer wore the band's status as great American rock band lightly, bringing an energy and edge that had been absent on their recent albums. Elsewhere, Just Breathe is a meditative lullaby, while the uplifting Among the Waves seemed to signify surfing disciple Vedder finally coming to terms with life. Riding high amongst the waves, I can feel like I have a soul that has been saved. The sound of a weight lifting from their shoulders. And now, we're on to Amy's 3 favorite Pearl Jam albums, Versus, Vitalogy, and 10. Versus was the sound of band who wanted to kick against fame. They dialed down the grand emoting. The album clanked and rattled to life with Open Go, and Blood was a blast of petulant fury that wouldn't have sounded out of place on a Nirvana album, yet they couldn't quite throw the baby out with the bathwater. Rearview Mirror and the plaintive elderly woman behind the counter in a small town gave light to the notion that Pearl Jam were anything other than an arena rock band, and a classy one at that. 3 albums in, and no one hated Pearl Jam more than Pearl Jam. Vitalogy was a determined attempt to destroy everything they'd built. The only problem was that they were incapable of making a bad record. The first single, Spin the Black Circle, was a blast of punky noise designed not to be played on the radio. It didn't work, the wheezing Bugs was crazy. But the surface abrasion of Last Exit and Corduroy couldn't hide their arena rock hearts, while the album's triptych of slow burners, Better Man, Immortality and Nothing Man, are among the best songs they've written. Their debt to the unfashionable rock bands of the past provided ammo for their detractors. Alive was snidely pegged the grunge-free bird, disregarding the personal heartbreak at its core. But 10 sold in the millions and Pearl Jam had the last laugh, even if would prove to be a bitter one. Well guys, those are all the Pearl Jam albums ranked from worst to best. Thanks for watching the video, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Amy's channel.